Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the farm. I'm Jason, and tonight I'm hoping to do some discing. All right, let's pull this beast around to the shop and take a quick look at it, get it serviced, and get out in the field and get some discing done. Alright, I just want to give this thing a quick once over, make sure it's good to go. I'm only going to be disking like 8 acres tonight, and only 4 of that am I going to be disking deep. I'm just going to kind of tickle the top 3 inches and get rid of the weeds, smooth it out a little bit, and then we'll sink her down deeper next time we go out there. Now on the other 4 acres, I've got to sink it down at least 5-6 inches. 7 would be better, but it's still a little bit tacky down deep. So I got to be careful. I don't want to bring a bunch of mud chunks up and not be able to form good beds for our vegetables. It's May 8th. I feel like I'm under the gun now. I wish the plastic was laid last week and already sprayed and already rained off and ready to plant vegetables, transplant our vegetables here in the next couple days, because the extended forecast looks good. I don't see any cold weather or frost or of any kind in the forecast. So the sooner I can get this disked, and hopefully the plastic laid tomorrow, if it doesn't rain much tonight, there is a slight chance of rain tonight, we're ready to get these plants out of the greenhouse. I'm getting sick of watering them, so that's one thing right there. We need more room in there to plant some later plantings, because it's getting full. Obviously we need to get them in the ground so they can start getting established and growing, and the quicker we can do that, the quicker they will start producing a crop that is harvestable for us to take to the farmers markets. So just a whole slew of reasons why this needs to get done here on May 8th, and hopefully it works out tonight. So I'm probably not even gonna grease this since I'm doing such a little amount, and it's already after supper. It's like 6:30. I just want to go get this done. I'm gonna make sure the tires all have air and all the discs turn, and then we're hitting the field. There's the field we're doing right there. But I'm gonna run home and grab some rags to clean off these dirty windows so I can actually see. I currently am only disking about 3 or 4 inches deep, just enough to get control of all these weeds that are out here. This back half of the field that I'm doing right now, about 4 acres, I don't need to lay plastic on it right now, and I probably shouldn't lay plastic on it right now because we use almost all degradable plastic, and this would be a little too early to put out for our later plantings. Just want to scratch the surface, get rid of all these weeds, and kind of get used to using it again and knowing what depth I need to set it at before I do the other half of the field where I need to sink it down a little bit deeper. You can see how bad these weeds are getting out here. It's definitely sticky out here in spots, but at least we're getting control of these darn weeds. When I look back here, I can see some dirt building up on the wheels. I know it's far too sticky and wet when I see that happening. Part of it's because I went through a wet spot, but it's just a little too wet to be doing this. But like I said, it has to be done. That final pass is always pretty, especially from a drone. I should have brought my drone out here. Well, here we go, the moment of truth. I'm not very hopeful that it's going to turn out well, but I'm willing to take the risk. At the very least, I could just do a shallow disking like I did back here and hope for the best that it doesn't rain tonight and tomorrow, and maybe this will promote the drying a little bit. Then I could come back out and disc it deeper here in a couple days after it's had a chance to dry a little bit more. The problem is you get so much compaction with the weight of this tractor and those front tires. You know, I got the duals on, so that's not too bad, but it's just, you know, the whole tractor in general just really compacts the soil, especially after you've disked once. So if it is a little bit muddy, once you disc that first time and you come back in the second time, really pack it down almost like concrete where it's muddy at, and it just never works up right the entire season. and it's a struggle to lay plastic, and then you got chunks under the plastic that you're trying to put your transplants into. It's just a whole slew of things that can go wrong by not having dry soil before laying beds when you're disking. So it is what it is. We're going to do our best and see what happens. All right, let's take a look at this first pass here. A lot of big chunks out here. And it's not disked very deep at all. This ain't good. Where the tractor tires went, you can see these big chunks. That is terrible. We do not want that under our beds. It is horrible trying to transplant into chunks like that when we lay the beds. It's too muddy. Son of a gun. I am so disappointed and frustrated about this. I'd like to be transplanting May 15th at the very latest. Back in 2019, it was worse than this. I had weeds out here over knee high on May 23rd or something like that before I could get out here. And I had to double disc it and chop all that stuff and incorporate it in with the disc so I was able to lay plastic. I hope this does not turn into one of those years. That was terrible. We still have a little bit of time, but not much. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit it lightly. Definitely not gonna sink it down deep. I can't pull up chunks like that over there. That was horrible. All right. One of the frustrations of farming for a vegetable farmer. If I wasn't laying beds, it's beautiful out. My brother's out planting soybeans tonight. What the heck is this? I find all kinds of old things out here. The other day I found a hay hook. So this was an old dairy farm from way back when. And I'm always finding things buried in the soil out here. I have no clue what this is. Some kind of steel piece off of an implement of some kind. Check this out. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's a pure stinking mud ball. That is exactly what I did not want to see. You know, and then right here, you know, look at that. I'm not even, that's the bottom right there. That's an inch deep. You can't lay plastic like that. And if I did go over it one more time to try to disc it a little bit deeper and maybe chop up these chunks, it's just gonna bring up more chunks. This is the way the tractor is gonna pack those mud balls, those mud chunks down, and then the disc is gonna bring it right back up, bigger and worse. All right, nothing I can do about it. It's out of my control. That's one of the things that's frustrating about farming sometimes. Things are out of my control. It's in God's hands. So let's have to put our faith and trust in Him that it'll all work out. And it always has. It's just frustrating when you can't get a jump on the season, when everything else is clicking and going right, except the wet ground. Oh well, all right. Well, I'm not sure what we're gonna get into tomorrow now that we're not gonna be laying plastic, but whatever it is, I'll bring you along. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Wishwell Farms. I'm hoping today's the big day. It's May 13th. It's 8 a.m. The sun is out. It's breezy. The ground is finally drying out, and we need to get our plastic laid. There's the field right there. I checked it last night, and it was drying out nicely and really close to being dry enough to lay plastic. So I'm gonna give it a go after lunch. We're gonna let it dry the rest of the morning while my employees and I are doing greenhouse work. And right after lunch, around 1 o'clock, I'm gonna head out there and try disking it. I feel like we have to get it done today because we have rain moving in tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. So I can't wait until tomorrow. If it's not dry enough, you know, it is what it is, and I'll do it here in a couple days after it dries out again. So the disc is already hooked up, ready to go. I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see how it looks. And then we'll put it on the drill so they can go out and get some beans drilled. And I gotta plant sweet corn today too, so I feel like my back's up against the wall. Not only do I have to disc, lay plastic, maybe even get it sprayed if it's calm tonight, and plant about 4 acres of sweet corn after all of this greenhouse work. It's gonna be a busy day. All right, we finally got all the greenhouse work done, and I'm down here getting ready to hook up my corn planter. I got about 4 acres of sweet corn I need to get put out right away, and then we're gonna come back and hook up to my bed shaper plastic mulch layer. And I'll tell you all about that when we get back, after we're done planting sweet corn and after I get some lunch. We got 5 varieties we're planting today. All right, just finished up planting 3.5 or 4 acres of sweet corn, and now I'm going to jump into 7120, which is hooked up to the disc, and go give this a shot. I sure hope it's dry enough. We are hoping to lay that plastic here in a couple hours, so as long as I can get down maybe 4 to 5 inches and not bring up too many muddy chunks, we're going to go for it. It's still a little chunky. It looks nice right here on top of this hill. Nice and powdery dry. Everywhere else is still bringing up some chunks, but you know what? At this point, I don't care. So I'm going to go over it diagonally and then go over a second time, back and forth straight. And maybe that'll help break up the chunks a little bit. At least I hope. Okay, I got one pass done. Currently making a second pass. And I never know if it's the right thing to do. So I'm committed now, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. 15-20 minutes from now, I'll be hooking up the plastic layer. Thought I'd come out here and just take a look at it, show you what it looks like. Yeah, it's been worse, but it's been a lot better. I think we can do it. Let me show you this. So right here where I'm at, this isn't too bad because there's mold borers on my plastic layer that gather in all the soil. So you get the soft powdery stuff like that concentrated in the middle of the bed, which makes it a lot easier to transplant. What I don't want is to dig down. There, see, I'm only about 4 or 5 inches down and I start running into the kind of the hard pan of our field. That's not good. Because if there's not enough loose soil there, there won't be enough for the discs on the back of the plastic layer to bury the shoulder of the plastic. And if it's bringing up muddy chunks, it doesn't bury it very well. And then if we have a heavy rain or a high winds, it can blow that plastic up. So there's kind of 2 reasons we want soft powdery soil. Obviously, to make transplanting easier when we're sticking our hands in our plants down through the hole of the plastic. We want that good soil to root contact, and we get a shot of water that goes in there too. So that helps make it easier. But if you got real chunky soil, it's hard to plant and get your hand down there, and the root ball is not going to be contacting all the soil as it should. And then of course the other reason is getting that edge of the plastic buried so it doesn't blow up in high winds. Now this right here is exactly how I want the whole field to look. Look at that. That's perfect. Oh, it's beautiful. It's funny how there's really nice spots in some areas and then other areas just gobs of these big muddy chunks. Oh well, it's time to get it done. I'm going to finish up this final pass, go unhook the disc, and start working on getting the plastic layer ready to lay plastic. All ready to drill some beans. Joel's already out there with the kidsy planting beans. He did say it was a little sticky in spots, but dry enough to continue. And I think he wants Jake out there to drill some beans too here in a little bit. I'm heading down here to get the plastic lifter hooked up. This has been a long time coming. We have really heavy clay soils around here, so when it does rain and you get muddy spots, it takes a while to dry out. But if I could just get that plastic laid in April, Oh, that'd be so nice to get it all sprayed and ready to transplant by May 10th. But there's still a chance we'll get it all in here in the next 4 or 5 days. That's what I'm hoping. Here's what I really wish I was doing right now. Don't worry, baby, it won't be long. We'll be on the water soon. So this is my rainflow mulch layer. I believe it's the model 2550, 2500 or 2550. But I got this over 20 years ago, and I believe when I was getting parts for it a couple years ago, they told me it was one of the first 100 units ever made. And I'm sure there's tens of thousands out there right now. So I'll just run through this real quick and explain how this works, and then I'll show you the rest of it when we're out in the field. So it can lay 3 foot or 4 foot plastic mulch. We use 4 foot only. To lay 3 foot plastic, you have to move these bolts over to the closer slots here so it lays a narrower bed. We added the auto row track. When I purchased this, it did not have auto row track. So you hook up this little unit to the PTO, and I'll show you how this works. I gotta start the tractor up real quick to show you. So when you're driving down the row, if you make a mistake and not drive straight, just 1 inch, maybe 1 or 2 inches, the back end will swing like 5, 6, 7 inches, and you're gonna have a windy bed of plastic mulch laid. It won't be straight, and you're constantly adjusting it manually with the hydraulic lever. It was a pain in the butt. I did it this way for the first 4, 5, 6 years, I'm guessing. So the auto row track, I wouldn't even think about getting one without auto row track. So this rolls across the top of the bed, and when you go a little bit the wrong direction, see how it has sensors up inside there, and it corrects the machine. So you can see how it's going left, now it's going right. So it does the opposite of what the tractor is doing. If the tractor's going too far that way, it'll react and go this way and straighten up your plastic. So you can carry 2 rolls of plastic. Let me turn this tractor back off. So it carries 2 rolls of plastic. So if you run out in the middle of a row, you can just splice in the second roll. And I'll show you how that works once it happens to us out in the field, because it always does. I added these little chains here. The discs that are hanging off of here with the guards are very heavy, and I know it's built differently now, but it was bending this right here. And you can see we added a little block there too. Just some little things we've tweaked on it to make it work better for us. But I think all these have been addressed on the newer models. You can tilt this disc in to be more aggressive. You can see here, less coverage or more coverage. When you have a deep tilled field, you need to put that on less coverage. When you have a hard pan and it's chunky, we put it on more coverage. So the plastic will come out from underneath this roller here, and these are kind of the wheels that roll along the shoulder of the bed with the plastic underneath it, and then it gets buried next with the cover dirt as it goes by. So there's a lot of adjustments you can make on here with the guards. We did add some extra guards down below just to help keep the dirt from flinging up on top of the plastic when you're going fast. If you're going slow, you don't really have to worry about those extra guards and getting dirt up on your plastic, but it doesn't take much to flip it up on there. So if you're going, more than a couple miles an hour, you're going to get dirt up on top of your bed, and it just makes a mess when you're transplanting. So those extra guards help keep that dirt off the bed for us. So these here will bring up some more loose dirt for the discs to have available to put on top of the shoulder of the plastic to keep it buried, the buried edge. One of the additions we made was this double drip attachment. It didn't come that way, it only came with 1 roll, but when we're doing things like onions, kale, spinach, lettuce, beets, strawberries, I think that's why we got it, was because we started using plastic for our strawberries and doing plastic culture berries instead of matted row. So we could put 2 rows of drip tape on 1 row of plastic, under 1 row of plastic, and get far better irrigation and moisture under the bed for certain crops. For most of our crops though, we only lay one roll, but it's nice to have that second one on there so you can swap it out real quick when you're out in the middle of the field if you run out. We always carry a little shovel for burying the ends and a pair of scissors to cut the plastic at the end of each row. There's not much more to it. We did add these little inner bed fillers. We were having a lot of problems on years where I couldn't plow very deep, getting enough loose soil. And this is one of the years that these are going to come in really handy. These help gather up loose soil that's available to make sure the center of your bed is filled. That could be a big problem if the center of your raised bed is not filled well with dirt. The bed will sag in, and there's going to be no dirt there for you to put your transplant into. So it could be a major problem. So you definitely want to have the center of your bed filled well. And some of the newer models have a crowned bed, so it's actually peaked up in the center, kind of like that. Just barely, just slightly crowned. And that ensures that you're going to have no standing water pooling up, maybe in a low spot on your bed, which could potentially drown your plant. So it makes all the water shed better off of the raised bed. Of course, there's a seat on there for the person that's riding and jumping off and standing on the plastic when we start, and for cutting the plastic at the end and burying it with the shovel. I'm sure there's some more items on here that I'll think about when we get out in the field and start laying plastic. All right, the plastic layer is laying plastic, and it's actually going down decent. This is our very first row of 2024, and my oldest son is supposed to be here helping. What time is it? 4:45. We have 3.5 hours to lay 48 rows from here to that woods, and we can lay until 8:30, so that means we have to start by 5. He's not here. He's helping my mom with something in Columbus, Ohio. So he's an hour away. So I'm starting by myself. It's not easy because you got to get down off the tractor like 2 or 3 times, at least 2 times at each end of the row, because it wants to pull the plastic and the drip tape with it. It's not fun to do by yourself. You have to start off with everything a little bit loose and then tighten it as you go. You have to hop back down, tighten everything up, and then get back on the tractor and go again. But I have to get started. I have no one else around to help me do this right now, and we're gonna run out of daylight if I don't get moving now. So let me give you a little look at this plastic layer and some of the adjustments I've made to make this lay good. Looks pretty good. For some reason, the little wheel down the middle is scuffing the plastic. Oh, that one's not turning. That's the problem. I wonder why that's not turning. I'm gonna have to lube that up a little bit. That's a big problem. That'll tear the plastic. So you can see how the plastic comes out from under that roller, and these tires kind of roll along the shoulder and hold it down as the discs bring the cover dirt to go on top of the shoulder that's under the tire. And then we're also laying a double drip tape right here because these first 3 rows are lettuce and onions, and one of them's for my daughter. I don't know what all she's planting, kale and spinach and some other things. So you can see how this is kind of bringing dirt up and putting some extra loose fluffy dirt right there that the disc can grab and throw onto the plastic. So it's a pretty nifty machine, and you can see in here we're pulling a lot of dirt right now. That's a little more than I'd like to pull, but if you don't have the front of this bed shaper full of dirt, you run the risk of getting an empty spot or a low spot to come through, and it won't be full right here. And this feels good. It's nice and full, and I can tell there's not a lot of big chunks. And I'm currently laying like standard plastic, embossed standard plastic. So this plastic will have to be lifted at the end of the year and disposed of. So the first 8 rows will be standard plastic, and then we'll switch over to biodegradable, and almost the entire rest of the field will be biodegradable. Actually, I think it all is. All right, just a quick update on how things are going. I got the 3 laid that have the double drip for our lettuce, spinach, onions, things like that. This is for the bell peppers. So this only has one drip tape, but it's in the center. So I got 6 rows to lay here. So I just ran out of plastic about 100 feet from the end. Thought this would be the perfect time to show you how we splice in a new roll to the existing roll that just ran out. So back there about 50 or 100 feet, I started seeing some paint strips. There's usually paint that appears on the top of the plastic when you're about out, so that way you know to be watching. And this is the one that just ran out. As soon as it runs out, you can see I stopped pretty quickly, about 2 feet past where the roll came out of the roller, but it's still under the tires, so that's good. So I'm gonna pull this new roll, unwind this new roll out, take it down there under the roller and out to here, and I'll overlap it maybe a foot, and then I'll bury it with dirt. This is where it's gonna get tricky though. My son is not here yet to help me, so I'm gonna have to loosen up the roll a little bit so it doesn't have a lot of tension on it, and put plenty of dirt on it so when I take off it doesn't pull that new roll with me as I go. We want it to stay in place. Now if my son was here, he'd be standing there on top of where the rolls join up, and it wouldn't move, and it'd be piece of cake. So this is what it looks like with the new roll spliced into the roll that just ran out. Hopefully there's enough dirt there to hold it. I'll set my camera up back here so you can watch as I drive away, and we'll see if it stays in place. This is how you adjust the tension of these roller bars with the plastics on. So if I can turn it with my hand pretty easy, like that, that's pretty loose. But it is heavy, so it doesn't take much to drag the plastic right out from underneath that dirt down there. Glad to see that it held. And even though we're at the end of a row, well, just about another 50 feet, we definitely need to tighten this back up because we want our plastic to have a lot of tension. Should be good. I don't want that plastic to be able to flap around the wind, so we want it really taut. Row, I lift it up. Give you a look underneath here. Look at that. That's what we want the dirt to look like. That is beautiful. Tightly packed, fine powdery dirt. Perfect to transplant in. And there's the drip tape. Right there. So we lift it up, and then Gavin will cut it. And he hooks it up here temporarily so the wind doesn't blow it out. Cuts the drip tape. I hop back on the tractor. So we just switched back over to biodegradable plastic. We just laid 3 rows of standard embossed plastic for the tomatoes. We only do 3 rows of tomatoes. We'll have 1 more row later on back in the back of the field. But beside the tomatoes is 8 rows of cantaloupes, and now we're getting ready to lay 8 or 9 rows for the seedless watermelon. Some of you may be wondering why we go back and forth from biodegradable plastic and standard embossed plastics. Several reasons. The biodegradable plastic is great because I don't have to pick it up at the end of the year and dispose of it. I just disc it in and it disintegrates and disappears. It's amazing. The problem is sometimes it'll degrade during the growing season when there's still growing crops on the plastic that we're harvesting, and it allows more weeds to come through. So we use the standard embossed plastic that is non-biodegradable on longer season crops like tomatoes and peppers, where we're going to be harvesting them the entire season. Or onions, the long season onions that we don't harvest till fall. I don't want that plastic to break down while those onions are growing. It'd be a big weedy mess. But on crops that are kind of short-lived and that have multiple plantings like zucchini, cucumbers, cantaloupe, we will put biodegradable down because by the time it's degrading, we're pretty much done with that crop and moving on to the next planting of it. We got her done. This half of the field is all laid and ready for transplanting. Well, I should say ready for spraying. If I had one more hour of daylight, I could get the spray on, because it's going to rain tonight. There's a 60 or 70% chance of rain at 4 a.m. It would have been perfect. It would have rinsed off all the spray off the plastic, and I could have started transplanting probably Wednesday. But what a relief to have this plastic down. It has been in the back of my mind for weeks, wondering when is it going to happen. Every time it would get close, it would rain, and I just was really worried we were going to be super late. But it feels good to have this done just in the nick of time. It is 9 o'clock, and the sun just went down. What a beautiful evening. A beautiful evening to be working out on the farm. And I'm beat. It's been a while since I've had a 14-hour day on the farm. I'm glad it's about over. If you have any questions about the plastic layer, my mulch, anything that I've discussed here today, just drop me a comment down below in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer those questions. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again real soon down on the farm.